Stories and Documentary Network. Welcome back to our channel. The Mandinka Empire, also known as the Mali Empire, was one of West Africa's most influential civilizations, dominating much of the region from the 13th to the 16th centuries. At its peak, this empire extended across vast territories, covering present-day Mali, Senegal, Guinea, Niger, and parts of Burkina Faso, Mauritania, and Côte d'Ivoire. Known for its impressive wealth, the Mandinka Empire became a hub for trade, culture, and learning, and its cities were renowned across the medieval world. The empire's influence on West Africa was profound, from its structured governance and thriving economy to its pivotal role in spreading Islam across the region. To understand the Mandinka Empire's rise, it is essential to situate it within the broader history of African civilizations. The empire emerged after the decline of the Ghana Empire, an earlier powerful state that had controlled lucrative trade routes in West Africa. With the Ghana Empire's fall, new political entities rose, vying for control over these trade networks and regional influence. Amid this competition, the Mandinka Empire rose to prominence under the leadership of Sundiata Keita, uniting various ethnic groups and establishing a stable government that facilitated expansion and prosperity. The roots of the Mandinka Empire, also known as the Mali Empire, can be traced back to small, interconnected communities along the Niger River, primarily inhabited by the Mandinka people. These communities initially formed a loose confederation, bound by shared culture, language, and trade, but they lacked centralized power. Over time, however, the need for protection, economic stability, and defense against external threats led to calls for unity. This need set the stage for the empire's rise, marking the beginnings of a formidable power that would soon come to control vast portions of West Africa. Central to the founding of the Mandinka Empire was Sundiata Keita, a legendary figure whose life story has become interwoven with West African history and myth. Born around the early 13th century, Sundiata faced significant challenges from a young age, including physical disabilities and political opposition from rival factions. Despite these obstacles, he grew into a leader whose strategic mind and charismatic personality enabled him to rally scattered Mandinka clans under a single banner. Through both military prowess and diplomacy, Sundiata expanded his control, culminating in the historic Battle of Kirina in 1235, where he defeated the powerful Soso king, Sumanguru Kante. This victory not only solidified Sundiata's leadership but also marked the formal establishment of the Mandinka Empire. The decline of the Ghana Empire, which had been a powerful West African kingdom controlling key trade routes, created an opening for Sundiata's ambitious expansion. The Ghana Empire's fall was precipitated by internal instability, resource depletion, and external pressures, particularly from the Almoravid invasions. With the dissolution of centralized control over lucrative trade routes and rich gold mines, the region became a battleground for emerging powers. Sundiata and his newly unified empire capitalized on this vacuum, taking control of these valuable routes that linked West Africa to North African and Mediterranean markets. This access to trade became a foundation of the Mandinka Empire's strength, fueling its rapid growth and establishing it as a dominant economic and military power in West Africa. The geographical setting of the Mandinka Empire was instrumental to its success, providing both natural defenses and abundant resources that fueled economic and cultural growth. The empire sprawled across the fertile lands along the Niger River, a lifeline for its people, as it flowed through key trade regions in West Africa. This river was not only a source of water for agriculture but also a critical avenue for transportation and communication, linking distant parts of the empire and facilitating the movement of goods and people. The Niger's fertile floodplains supported crop cultivation, which became a staple of the empire's economy and helped sustain its growing population. One of the most remarkable advantages of the Mandinka Empire was its control over major trade routes, especially those that transported gold and salt, two of the most valuable commodities of the era. The empire's central position between the mineral-rich regions to the south and the desert trade networks of the north positioned it as a vital connector between the Sahel and the Sahara, as well as with North Africa and beyond. This strategic positioning allowed the Mandinka to control and profit from the north-south trade of gold, salt, and other goods, such as ivory, slaves, and kola nuts, which were highly prized in markets as distant as the Mediterranean and the Middle East. This trade network not only brought immense wealth but also introduced the Mandinka to various cultures and ideas, broadening their worldview and fostering diplomatic relationships. The Mandinka Empire was blessed with an abundance of natural resources, which provided both sustenance and commercial power. Foremost among these resources was gold, which the empire controlled in large quantities, making it one of the wealthiest civilizations of its time. The golden wealth of the Mandinka became legendary, reaching as far as Europe and the Middle East, and prompting travelers such as Ibn Battuta and traders from distant lands to visit Mali. In addition to gold, the empire also benefited from rich deposits of copper, which was valuable for both trade and crafting, and further contributed to the empire's prosperity. Agricultural resources were equally vital, as the empire's fertile land produced staple crops such as millet, sorghum, and rice. These crops, along with cattle farming, sustained the population and helped build a surplus that could be traded or stored for times of scarcity. The Mandinka Empire's strength and longevity owed much to its well-organized and adaptable governance structure, which combined centralized rule with local administration. This system allowed the empire to maintain unity across vast and culturally diverse regions while enabling a degree of regional autonomy that promoted stability and local prosperity. At the heart of this governance model was the powerful centralized authority of the Mansa, or emperor, whose leadership was absolute yet grounded in tradition and collective wisdom. Emperors, known for their diplomatic and military skills, were central figures who upheld law, coordinated the empire's vast trade networks, and commanded loyalty across the lands they ruled. The foundation of the Mandinka Empire's legal and social organization can be traced to the Kurukan Fuga, or Sundiata's Charter, which was reportedly established by Sundiata Keita, the empire's founding ruler. The Kurukan Fuga served as a foundational charter, codifying rights, responsibilities, and laws in a way that fostered social cohesion and stability. This charter set forth guidelines on social structures, property rights, marriage, and conflict resolution, establishing a common framework that bound Mandinka society together. One of its key features was its promotion of justice and equality, as it sought to safeguard the rights of individuals, including women, and ensure fairness in inheritance and property matters. In this way, the Kurukan Fuga not only enhanced the empire's stability but also fostered a sense of shared identity and mutual respect among its people. Several Mansas became legends for their contributions to the Mandinka Empire's governance, and their legacies are still celebrated in African history. Sundiata Keita, known as the Lion King, was the architect of the empire, uniting warring clans and creating the foundation upon which the empire would prosper. His strategic vision, embodied in the Kurukan Fuga, established order, mutual respect, and a commitment to collective prosperity that endured beyond his reign. Later, Mansa Musa, one of the most renowned rulers, brought the empire to new heights. Musa's reign was marked by his immense wealth, famously displayed during his pilgrimage to Mecca, which earned him worldwide recognition. Under Musa, the empire expanded further, and his policies encouraged trade, education, and diplomatic relationships. He invested in the development of cities like Timbuktu and Gao, turning them into centers of learning, scholarship, and commerce. In addition to these central figures, regional governors played essential roles within the empire's governance framework. These local leaders, often from noble or powerful families, were responsible for administering their territories, collecting taxes, and enforcing laws. This system of delegated governance maintained a balance between central authority and local traditions, which encouraged loyalty and prevented unnecessary uprisings. By promoting local governance while upholding the ultimate authority of the Mansa, the Mandinka Empire created a robust administrative structure that could endure and adapt to changes over time. The economic power of the Mandinka Empire was fueled by a flourishing trade network that connected West Africa to distant regions, establishing it as one of the wealthiest empires of its time. Through its extensive control of trade routes, especially those linked to North Africa and the Mediterranean, the empire created a prosperous economy centered around highly sought-after commodities like gold, salt, and ivory. Gold, in particular, became a hallmark of the empire's wealth and international influence, with gold mines in the empire supplying a significant portion of the metal to North African and European markets. The empire's wealth in gold became legendary, especially under the reign of Mansa Musa, whose extravagant displays during his pilgrimage to Mecca drew worldwide attention and solidified the Mandinka Empire's reputation as a global economic powerhouse. Beyond trade, agriculture formed a bedrock of the empire's economic stability. The fertile lands along the Niger River and surrounding areas supported the cultivation of essential crops like millet, sorghum, and rice, which sustained the empire's population and reduced dependence on imported food. Agriculture was supplemented by animal husbandry, with cattle, sheep, and goats providing a steady source of food and materials for daily life. Livestock not only supported food security but also provided tradable commodities and a means of wealth accumulation. The integration of agriculture and livestock management created a sustainable economic model that ensured stability within the empire, allowing it to thrive even during periods of political transition or external pressures. A unique aspect of the Mandinka economic system was its currency practices, which centered around the use of gold dust as a form of currency. Gold dust became the primary means of exchange in bustling urban markets across the empire, allowing for the development of a sophisticated economy. This currency system supported local and international trade, as merchants and traders from different regions could engage in exchanges without needing complex currency conversions. The marketplaces in cities like Timbuktu, Guinea, and Gao became hubs of economic activity, where goods from across Africa and beyond were traded. These markets were filled with diverse products, from textiles and spices to tools and luxury items, reflecting the empire's role as a major center of commerce and cultural exchange. The Mandinka Empire was not only a powerhouse of economic and political influence but also a center of cultural and intellectual flourishing. Its commitment to education, religious syncretism, and the arts helped create a dynamic cultural landscape that attracted scholars, artists, and traders from across the Islamic world and beyond. Among the empire's greatest cultural achievements were the centers of learning it developed, the integration of Islam with local traditions, and its rich legacy in art, music, and oral history. One of the Mandinka Empire's most celebrated accomplishments was the establishment of knowledge centers, with Timbuktu standing out as the jewel in its intellectual crown. Known for its universities, libraries, and manuscript collections, Timbuktu became a magnet for scholars from North Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. The city housed institutions like the Sankore University, which boasted a rich curriculum that included mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and theology. The exchange of ideas in Timbuktu fostered an intellectual environment that enabled the growth of science, philosophy, and the arts. Students came from afar to study with renowned scholars, creating a diverse academic community that would leave an indelible impact on West African history. Manuscripts from this era, many of which are still preserved, bear witness to the sophisticated scholarship of the period and demonstrate the empire's profound influence on education and intellectual life. Cultural and religious syncretism played a vital role in the Mandinka Empire's unique identity, especially with the integration of Islam into society. Islam arrived through trade networks and was embraced by the ruling elite, yet it blended with indigenous beliefs and customs, creating a form of Islam that was uniquely Mandinka. While the empire adopted Islamic practices such as prayer, fasting, and pilgrimage, it also retained elements of traditional African spirituality, such as ancestor worship, ritualistic ceremonies, and reverence for nature. This fusion created a tolerant society where different beliefs coexisted, fostering a culture that was spiritually rich and adaptable. The Mandinka approach to Islam also gave rise to distinct practices, such as the reverence for marabouts, Islamic spiritual leaders, who served both as religious authorities and keepers of local lore and customs, bridging the gap between traditional beliefs and the new faith. In the arts, the Mandinka Empire made significant contributions to architecture, music, and oral traditions, leaving a legacy that continues to shape West African culture. The empire's architecture was marked by the construction of mosques and buildings that incorporated local materials and design techniques. In cities like Timbuktu, Gao, and Guinea, mud brick mosques with striking minarets and intricate facades became symbols of both spiritual devotion and architectural innovation. One of the most famous examples is the Great Mosque of Djenné, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that represents a blend of Islamic and West African architectural styles. The empire's artistic contributions extended to sculpture and metalwork, with artisans producing beautiful pieces that showcased their skills in working with bronze, iron, and gold. The Mandinka Empire's cultural heritage was also preserved through its oral traditions, particularly the stories and songs passed down by griots, the empire's historians and storytellers. Griots held a revered place in society as keepers of history, genealogy, and legends. They preserved the empire's history through epic tales, such as the story of Sundiata Keita, and conveyed the values and wisdom of Mandinka society through poetry, music, and storytelling. Their oral narratives kept the memory of the empire alive across generations and contributed to the cultural identity of the region. Through its commitment to intellectual growth, religious syncretism, and artistic expression, the Mandinka Empire established itself as a beacon of cultural achievement. Its learning centers fostered knowledge and exchange, its religious practices highlighted cultural adaptability, and its art and oral traditions captured the spirit of its people. These cultural achievements solidified the empire's legacy as a civilization that valued intellectual and artistic pursuits as much as military and economic prowess, leaving a lasting impact on African culture and history. Islam's introduction and assimilation into the Mandinka Empire had a profound influence on its governance, culture, and global standing. Through trans-Saharan trade and diplomatic relations with North African states, Islam gradually took root within the empire, particularly among the ruling elite. The empire's adoption of Islam added an essential layer to its identity, allowing it to forge new political alliances, enhance its governance, and enrich its intellectual pursuits. The introduction of Islam to the Mandinka Empire can be traced back to trade routes connecting West Africa with the Islamic world. North African traders, who were predominantly Muslim, carried not only goods such as gold and salt but also religious ideas. The leaders of the Mandinka Empire, seeing the advantages of aligning with the powerful and expansive Islamic world, began to embrace Islam, facilitating interactions with Muslim merchants, scholars, and diplomats. As the empire expanded, Islam became the faith of the Mandinka elite, while rural populations often maintained traditional spiritual practices. This blending of religious beliefs created a uniquely Mandinka expression of Islam that harmonized with indigenous customs and beliefs. One of the most significant events in the Mandinka Empire's history was Mansa Musa's pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, a journey that had a profound impact on both the empire and the broader Islamic world. As the wealthiest ruler of his time, Mansa Musa traveled with a vast entourage and an unprecedented amount of gold, distributing wealth generously along his route. His pilgrimage not only demonstrated his devotion to Islam but also placed the Mandinka Empire on the world map, garnering the attention of powerful states and renowned scholars across the Islamic world. The wealth and splendor displayed during the pilgrimage emphasized the empire's prosperity and its rulers' commitment to the Islamic faith. Upon his return, Mansa Musa made efforts to further incorporate Islamic institutions, such as mosques and schools, solidifying the faith's place in the empire and attracting Muslim scholars to West Africa. Islam also played a significant role in shaping the Mandinka Empire's administration and legal system, while traditional beliefs continued to thrive among the general populace. Islamic principles were gradually woven into governance and law, contributing to a structured and respected system of justice that upheld both Islamic values and local customs. Mansa Musa's efforts to incorporate Islamic principles extended to the establishment of schools, libraries, and centers of learning, particularly in cities like Timbuktu, which became a hub of scholarship and Islamic thought. The integration of Islam into administration provided a common framework for governance, allowing the Mandinka Empire to expand its influence over a diverse range of communities while maintaining social cohesion. Despite Islam's influence on the ruling elite and the administrative core, indigenous practices continued to flourish in the empire's rural areas, where traditional beliefs and customs remained integral to daily life. This coexistence of Islamic and indigenous spiritual practices exemplifies the religious harmony of the Mandinka Empire, where the elite's adherence to Islam did not suppress local customs. Instead, The empire embraced religious plurality, allowing both Islam and traditional practices to thrive, which created a stable social and cultural environment. Mansa Musa, the most celebrated ruler of the Mandinka Empire, is often remembered as one of history's wealthiest and most influential kings. His life and reign left an indelible mark on the empire, transforming it into a symbol of opulence, piety, and intellectual advancement in West Africa. Known for his immense wealth, generosity, and administrative acumen, Mansa Musa elevated the Mandinka Empire to unprecedented levels of prosperity and international renown, positioning it as a key player in the Islamic world. Born in 1280 and ascending to the throne in 1312, Mansa Musa inherited an already prosperous empire but expanded its wealth and influence significantly through his ambitious leadership. His legacy extends beyond the vast riches he accumulated. He is remembered as a devout Muslim, an effective administrator, and a cultural patron who invested in the spiritual and intellectual life of his empire. Mansa Musa's generosity was legendary, and his influence reached as far as Europe and the Middle East, where tales of his wealth spurred depictions of Africa as a land of abundance and power. Under his leadership, the Mandinka Empire expanded its territory, flourished economically, and grew culturally vibrant, reinforcing its position as one of the world's most powerful states during the 14th century. Perhaps the most famous episode of Mansa Musa's life was his pilgrimage, Hajj, to Mecca in 1324, a journey that underscored his piety and wealth. Accompanied by a caravan of thousands of soldiers, attendants, and camels laden with gold, Mansa Musa's pilgrimage was a monumental event that captured the attention of the Islamic world. His generosity was evident as he distributed gold along his route, famously causing inflation in Cairo due to the sudden influx of wealth. This single act not only elevated Mansa Musa's reputation but also created lasting economic ripples that affected Cairo's economy for years. Through the Hajj, Mansa Musa established diplomatic and trade connections with leaders in the Islamic world, enhancing the empire's influence while fostering the spread of Islamic scholarship and culture in West Africa. His pilgrimage remains a symbol of both his devotion to Islam and his status as one of the wealthiest rulers in history. Mansa Musa's reign ushered in an era of economic prosperity and extensive urban development within the Mandinka Empire. Recognizing the importance of cities as centers of trade, education, and administration, he invested heavily in the empire's infrastructure, transforming cities like Timbuktu and Gao into bustling centers of commerce and learning. Mansa Musa's dedication to education and Islam led him to establish schools, libraries, and mosques, attracting scholars, traders, and travelers from across Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. Timbuktu, in particular, gained prominence as a hub of Islamic scholarship and trade, housing the famous Sankore University and a vast collection of manuscripts that would later be recognized as one of Africa's greatest intellectual legacies. Through his investments in education, urban planning, and trade, Mansa Musa fostered a cultural renaissance within the empire, strengthening its intellectual and spiritual foundation. His reign transformed the Mandinka Empire into an economic powerhouse and a beacon of Islamic learning and culture, further solidifying its status in the global imagination as a land of wealth, wisdom, and influence. Mansa Musa's contributions to the empire's urban and economic development not only enriched its citizens but also positioned it as a crucial link in trans-Saharan and Mediterranean trade networks, reinforcing its prosperity and cultural significance for centuries to come. The Mandinka Empire's dominance in West Africa began to wane after reaching its peak under Mansa Musa. Despite its cultural and economic achievements, a combination of internal conflicts and external pressures gradually destabilized the empire, leading to its eventual fragmentation. However, the legacy of the Mandinka Empire remained influential in the region, with its cultural and economic impact enduring long after its political decline. The decline of the Mandinka Empire can be traced to several internal factors that weakened its centralized authority. Succession disputes became frequent following the reign of powerful rulers like Mansa Musa and Mansa Suleiman, as the lack of a clear line of succession led to conflict among ruling elites. These disputes often involved power struggles between members of the royal family, regional leaders, and military commanders, causing significant instability. Additionally, Regionalism began to take hold as provincial governors and local rulers gained more autonomy, resisting centralized control from the capital. This shift away from a unified administration fostered rivalries between different regions, eroding the cohesion that had once been a cornerstone of the empire's strength. The empire's rapid expansion created logistical challenges in maintaining effective governance over its vast territories. As the Mandinka Empire grew, the need for efficient communication, control, and resource management became more complex, straining the empire's resources. Combined with natural shifts in trade routes, these internal challenges steadily weakened the Mandinka Empire's capacity to function as a centralized, unified state. In addition to internal issues, the Mandinka Empire faced mounting pressures from external forces, particularly from the neighboring Songhai Empire. As the Songhai expanded under rulers like Sunni Ali and Askia Muhammad, it began to encroach upon Mandinka territory, especially in the fertile regions along the Niger River. By the late 15th century, Songhai had taken control of key cities like Timbuktu and Gao, further diminishing the Mandinka Empire's influence. This loss of territory also meant the loss of important trade routes and resources, undermining the Mandinka economy and reducing its ability to compete with rising powers in the region. The arrival of European traders on the West African coast in the 15th and 16th centuries added another dimension to the Mandinka Empire's struggles. As European powers began establishing coastal trade networks and direct access to African resources, they bypassed traditional trans-Saharan trade routes, weakening the economic foundation of the Mandinka Empire. The growing involvement of Europeans in regional politics and trade, coupled with the rise of other African states, further eroded the Mandinka Empire's control over trade and reduced its regional influence. Despite its political decline, the Mandinka Empire left an enduring cultural and economic legacy. Mandinka language, customs, and Islamic practices continued to spread throughout West Africa, influencing neighboring societies and fostering a shared cultural heritage. As a center of Islamic learning and culture, the intellectual contributions of the Mandinka Empire, especially those centered in Timbuktu, remained significant. Even as the empire fragmented, its tradition of scholarship and religious devotion persisted, with manuscripts, oral histories, and educational institutions preserving the empire's intellectual legacy. Moreover, Mandinka trading networks persisted, connecting communities across West Africa and fostering economic interactions that continued to shape the region. The Mandinka people themselves dispersed across West Africa, establishing communities and influencing local cultures in areas beyond the boundaries of the original empire. The Mandinka Empire's history, marked by its wealth, learning, and governance, became a source of pride and identity for descendants and other West African communities, cementing its place as a foundational civilization in African history. The griots' role remains vital, as their performances continue to teach, entertain, and preserve cultural identity through songs, poems, and tales, especially in the context of the kora, a traditional stringed instrument that has become a symbol of Mandinka artistry. Mandinka folklore, particularly the legendary stories of Sundiata Keita, the empire's founder, has had a profound influence on African literature. The Epic of Sundiata is one of the most famous stories, retold across generations, and it has inspired literary works far beyond Africa. These tales contribute to a collective memory of the Mandinka people, shaping their identity and connecting them to their past. The Mandinka's contributions to music, especially through the kora, remain a powerful cultural legacy that unites communities in West Africa through shared history and musical expression. The Mandinka Empire's role in the spread of Islam also had far-reaching effects on neighboring kingdoms. As the empire embraced Islam and integrated it into governance, law, and education, it became a center for Islamic scholarship, particularly in places like Timbuktu. The intellectual legacy of the Mandinka Empire influenced the development of Islamic law, education, and scholarship in West Africa, practices that continue to shape the region today.